Over the past 4 weeks, we have held our Justice Hub September webinar series. We focus on topics such as legal aid and open source, legal aid collaboration, especially concerning tech tools, and we also held a walkthrough so you can learn how to use Justice Hub in its current state. Today, really what we're focusing on is the technology that you would find on Justice Hub, whether it's on the Justice Hub itself or yet to be posted there. So really, it's just a way for us to come together and talk about the tech that exists really at the forefront of our communities. So let's see. So I have chosen a list of 5 projects from the Justice Hub that I would like to talk about. But I really want to open up the floor to anyone in this webinar who has a project that they would like to touch on, and a legal aid technology project. So yeah, so is anyone in the crowd, has anyone in the crowd brought forward a project?
Christy, this is Ed. Why don't we talk for a moment about the one we're working on with the grants management stuff?
Sure. Okay.
And I'll put it in a nutshell. What we're doing is not trying to recreate Grant Hub and similar programs that do detailed tracking of grants for financial managers and those sorts. What we want is to put something in the hands of frontline attorneys and paralegals who are working on these projects, so that without having to go through 15 or 20 spreadsheets, they can see at a glance in real time, or as close to real time as we can possibly make it. Now, what they're supposed to do that month, how many cases they're supposed to do year to date, are they ahead, are they behind, community presentations, whatever it is the grant requires, so that they and their managers don't have to wait for the financial staff or the executive staff to tell them a month later that they're falling behind. They'll know at the beginning of the month where things stand and what they're supposed to do. We're hoping that's going to do a lot of wonderful things, especially get some of the frontline staff more actively engaged in knowing how to plan out what the priorities are for the grant that they're working on.
Thank you, Ed. So just going off of what Ed was discussing, really the way this project started was during our virtual legal aid hackathon in November. By bringing together people such as, well, Ed, Ajit Sivan, Brian Rowe, and Andrew Sharp, and other legal aid technologists, we were able to come up with a very broad-based idea. But we realized that going forward, we wanted to take it one step at a time. So in developing this system, we've taken a previous project management system and incorporated it into Office. And so that's actually what we're doing right now. So what we're hoping is, once we're able to set up this system for NMLA, we can create an easy how-to for other legal aid offices across the country who may be using Google spreadsheets, for example, for their grant management system. So thank you, Ed. That is the first project.
So Christy, Christy, let me just ask you a couple of questions. Since this is about Justice Hub, how does Justice Hub facilitate a project like that happening? Are there any tools that are used? Do all the projects have to start at a virtual legal hackathon? This one did. But just talk a little bit about how Justice Hub is facilitating this, because that's why we want Justice Hub to be a community.
Okay, so the way Justice Hub would be facilitating this is a project has to start somewhere. So, you know, it starts with an individual or a group of individuals. For us, it started at a hackathon. If we were to replicate the kind of work we're doing now, what would happen is there would be a series of hackathons on Justice Hub. So a hackathon could be anywhere between 5 to 100 people. So they would get on the site and they would start by presumably posting a topic. So we could say domestic violence and legal aid. And this is what we want to improve. This is what we're working on. But now let's figure out a way to narrow this down and create a project. So then the team would join a project and post links such as GitHub, links to their project management software that they're using, a Google Doc, what have you. And they would begin to work together through that process. And right now we're currently working on features that will better enable that process. So, creating a timeline for the project itself from beginning to end and helping these teams define what that means. So I think that's at the moment, that's what Justice Hub can do. But I think it also, the more we work with different legal aid organizations, the more users we have coming onto the site. We've been working with legal hackers, ATX Hack for Change. So bringing on these other developers are key as well. So it's really about bringing together this community. So as the months and the months that lay ahead of us, what we plan on doing are holding these mini hackathons and supporting these larger hackathons, so people know they actually have a home for their projects as opposed to floating in cyberspace. I'm not sure if that answered your question, Jeff.
Well, that's a good start. I think the point is that projects need to start somewhere, and right now they start in a lot of different places. And so one of the roles of Justice Hub is to be a convening entity. And there'll be ways in which we can showcase how people can convene. But in some other cases, projects are already done. Projects exist out there. When we go to the TIG conferences, a lot of times the presentations are about projects that are actually finished and put to use in a particular legal aid community. And is there a place on Justice Hub for those kinds of projects?
Definitely. I think that there have been a few projects posted on Justice Hub that are already completed, which are on my list today. But that includes things such as the Daca Relocation Advisor and the Veterans Will Center. So if you want, I can jump into those.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, great. So I will start then with Protect Me. So Protect Me is on the Justice Hub website, and it started off as an idea for a protection order chatbot for Harris County, Texas. This also was created during the virtual hackathon for legal aid this past November. And really the point of the chatbot was to help legal aid lawyers and survivors, I guess, put together a protection order in a much more convenient way. The issue being that if you're a survivor and you are, you really want to fill out this protection order and it is the middle of the night on a Saturday, well, you can't go to a legal aid lawyer in the middle of the night on a Saturday. And this is a 9-to-5 schedule. So we decided to flip that on its head, really. And so we created this chatbot where you can automate this conversation. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And if you scroll to the top, you start talking with Protect Me, and you have a list of questions and answers that you can give. And I'll just show a short example. Okay. And so this was created using documents that legal aid and the district attorney had already put out for protection orders. So let's see if I can pull that back. Nope, go forward. Okay. So now, because of its because of the open source model, what we've done is we're currently creating a New Mexico legal aid version that they can put on their website. And we're going to take the chatbot a step further by creating a user/attorney PDF. So the chatbot would be able to fill out the protection order itself. And then you have the option of submitting it to the legal aid organization or keeping it for yourself if you're a survivor. And so I think that's the perfect example of how we can replicate a project instead of starting from scratch once again. And just as a side note, there's actually a spin-off project from this chatbot called the Houston Eviction Fighter Chatbot. So it deals with landlord and tenant issues. And right now, there is a Kentucky version being built with Q&A markup. So, so yeah, so there is, that is the Protect Me chatbot. Going on to the second project that I had mentioned before, called the Daca Relocation Advisor. Okay. So Siskind Susser, the visa law firm, had or created the Daca Advisor in response to the elimination of the program. This advisor will help you determine how your Daca eligibility is affected by this news. So it's using Neota logic. You're able to, let's see, an extension, you have an unexpired, okay. And so through a series of clicks, you're able to determine how you were affected by this. So this came out during the Harvey hurricane as well. So I think many people who were caught in the hurricane were also affected by this news. So we thought it was incredibly helpful, and they offered to put it on the Justice Hub as well. Jeff, did you maybe want to go a little bit into this project, since I think you're the one who started that conversation?
Well, this is just an example of a project that could be put on the Justice Hub, and it's just a standalone project that is made available to those offices that are able to use it. So that's really why it's there. Separate and apart from a project like this, we also have a virtual will center that was created at the hackathon, and that so there's an example of a project that basically, though it's done, it needs to essentially move from the state where it's at, which is it's on the Justice Hub website, and now how we need basically a business model for implementing it, so that any veteran can utilize it. We know that there is a lot of pro bono help available for veterans. So within our Justice Hub and within the legal aid community, it's quite possible that somebody knows how to tap into that pro bono network, and then we could take this natural wills site, which works in 50 states, and have it deployed across every single state. So in this sense, the legal aid community needs to take it to the next step. That's really sort of the main purpose of this call, is to begin to get the legal aid community to say, all right, there's a project. How would we work on it to take it nationwide? What's the model to make that work? Because here it is, it's at a certain point, but to take it to actually get it into the hands of veterans who have wills, we need some help and support. So that's what we're hoping to get some input on, whether it's this particular project or a project like this. We want the community, legal aid community, to begin to take ownership of, well, what do we do next? Now that we have these collaborations leading to projects that are pretty much in close to final form.
Jeff, I was in Idaho last month for who knows when I've been everywhere, but I talked with Major Steve Stokes there. He's with the Idaho Military Legal Alliance, where they do a lot of work with veterans and pro bono attorneys. They did some stuff around estate planning. That was one of the things they were doing. I could get you probably his contact information if it would be useful to kind of work with that project and see how they might be able to use this or get some, is that what you're looking at, is some connections like that to start rolling it out?
That's exactly right, Glenn. A connection like that on the Justice Hub then lets us, move to the next step in the timeline, which is implementation. And then if somebody like the major says, well, I can do this, or here are some people that can take this to the next step, we actually end up with a project that moves from Justice Hub collaboration to now it's the way in which veterans can get wills. So yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for.
Okay, I will get with the program. He was someone I interviewed in person, so I don't have a phone number or email, but I'm sure I can get one from our program, and I'll get it to you, and then maybe you can see if that's something that'd be useful for them. They've been very active there. In fact, in 2016, they did 150 estate plans as part of that project. So,
wow, yeah, well, that's a great place to start the conversation and see where it goes. Thank you.
okay.
Okay, thank you. So I have 2 projects left on my list. The next is the Invisibles project, which I will pass over the mic to Jeff, since Jeff has been leading this project for the past few months.
Well, the Invisibles project came out of the hackathon for veterans with a particular focus on refugees and getting them a digital identity. There's been a lot of work in the field of digital identity in the blockchain, and it's actually something that a lot of the big law firms are creating consortiums, and they're figuring out ways to use the distributed ledger technology that is the backbone of the blockchain to get what they're calling smart contracts live and putting them into effect. We saw the opportunity of actually getting identities as, instead of just a smart contract, why not give somebody an actual identity when they don't have one? And refugees are a large population that are in need, and they can immediately, if they have the right identity with the right trust aspects associated with the claims that they're making to create that identity, have it put up in a blockchain environment where financial technology companies are actively putting their fintech, which could then open up a door to livelihood for those refugees. So we made connections in the refugee camps over in Greece and in parts of Asia. And the question arose, well, who's going to work on this project? Who's going to, if you're getting refugees interviewed so that they're making claims that are going to end up becoming part of their identity, who's going to be the evaluator of that? And the logical answer that popped up in our minds was, why not veterans of war, and particularly U.S. veterans who have fought in those jurisdictions? We put together some outreach and some contacts, and it became clear that we were on the right track. There are many veterans groups that are mission oriented. They feel as though they've come back from wars, but they have not accomplished what they were sent to do, which was to help bring some stability to these countries where they're going to. So why not get refugees on the front lines of helping these people who've now left those countries and are in refugee camps? Let's evaluate, put the veterans into job positions so they can be the evaluators of the claims that are being made. And we would set up training to do that. So that's where that project sort of started. Of course, the technology piece of that came out as we started talking to a lot of fintech companies, and it became clear that they needed a system of trustworthy identity at the core. So we've taken it, to the step now of actually having identified the camps, made a couple of presentations at the World Justice Project and at the World Bank, and now we're at the process of reaching out to veterans groups. There are 2 or 3 of them, though we could certainly use more contacts to see which one will be the right group to sort of lead the project, because this can scale past the initial camps into a much larger environment. We're working with a group called People-Centered Internet, which was founded by Vint Cerf, who's got a whole project relating to get getting identities to the next 2 billion people online. This could port over to legal aid at some point for survivors. But it's easier to start with people who don't have any identities at all. So that's the project that we're working on, and the connection to legal aid is empowering veterans to get them jobs.
Thank you, Jeff. So we have a final project to present that was posted to Justice Hub, which will actually spawn a variety of more projects. So let me share my screen. Okay. There you go. So this is a newly made project by Daryl Malone. He is working with IBO, Sketch City, Station Houston, and a few others. This hackathon, well, really the series of hackathons across the U.S., starting in Houston in October, is focused on easing and improving the public defense process and making legal defense available to the masses. Essentially, the focus of these hackathons is to create a public defender artificial intelligence. And the goal is to help those who have not been given a fair trial, to also provide aid to those who are too poor to afford legal defense, and protect those who are coerced to plead guilty. So it's really a very moving project. And really the way that Justice Hub will be working, or I wouldn't say working with, but the way that the Tubman Project will utilize JusticeHub.tools is, as the hackathon goes forward, in order to make sure that their projects have a home and the projects can continue, they will be posting their legal chatbot, their case data aggregator, their survey tool, secure recorder, automatic brief filer, to the Justice Hub. So if, let's say, a legal aid organization in Florida or California sees something like this, they can easily replicate this kind of work and work with the Tubman Project to do so. So in a few weeks, the Tubman Project will be conducted over 2 days. And we're really looking forward to this. So the Tubman Project itself is not a piece of tech, but it will be very soon.
So, Christy, what you're saying is that projects, even though they may be arising from this public defense area, some of the tools that they're creating could actually then be utilized in a legal aid context after they're created.
Yes, exactly. So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Jeff, Christy, some programs in the country, including ours, that have Native American components, we do public defense work in the tribal courts. So if this can be adapted for tribal court work as well, it could be a very helpful thing.
Well, and also, I mean, NLADA is legal aid and defenders. And so this would be something that, you might want to reach out to NLADA to let them know about. It might be something they want to let their members that do the public defender work, they might be interested in this.
Sure, absolutely.
That's great.
Thank you. We will definitely reach out to them. So that was really the I think the 5 most impressive, in my personal opinion, projects on the website. So we do have about 1 to 2 minutes left. So I wanted to open the floor to anyone else on this call, because I noticed that we had, sorry, I'm trying to fix my screen. Okay, I noticed that we had, let's see, who do we have? We have Frank from Law Explorers with us, Glenn, Jane, and Jonathan. So if you had any projects or maybe projects in the works that you wanted to talk about, we could. Frank? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, well.
This is Jane. I guess, my only, in terms of projects, is how can we, what can we do to kind of better connect the TIG projects either as they finish or not to kind of let them know to go here and post things and maybe, do more outreach or I guess that's the thing. I'm trying to make the connection so that the platform gets used for the purpose it was designed for sharing those projects. Is there something we can do? We can help with in terms of doing that outreach, or when we see something is saying, hey, you should go post this, or how have you given thought to that type of outreach that you're doing?
Jane, that's like the most important aspect of what's going on right now. We were fortunate that the attention was placed on this webinar series so that we've had a lot of people come on board and become aware of what's going on. But I remember at the very beginning, Glenn said this to me and Ed said it, Vince said it as well. There's a lot of technology that is in the legal aid community, and in order for it to be utilized, people need to be aware of it and people need to see that it meets their needs. And so this is, in that sense, a technology for the community. So the most important thing that we would need right now is to
Jeff, we're losing you.
Easily share. Let's see.
Jeff, we lost about the last 2 minutes, whatever you were saying.
All right. Well, I don't know if you can hear me any better now.
Yeah, now it's coming through.
Okay. The best thing we could do right now is to identify a handful of projects in the TIG community that are projects that could be shared from one legal aid community to another. Identify a handful of them, and then just as Glenn is going to make contact with the major, if Jane, you could put us in touch with people in those legal aid offices, we'll work with them to put their projects up on Justice Hub and to define the next steps. That would be one thing that we could do. Certainly another thing that we could do is to maybe have like the TIG meeting that will happen in January, maybe have a community interest dinner or lunch or something like that, where we focus on the Justice Hub and share some of the projects that we're able to put on between here and there.
Jeff, have you talked to Tanina at Georgetown about getting stuff from Iron Tech Lawyer?
We talked a while back, but not recently, but I will definitely reach out to her again.
Okay, I'll reach out to her again and remind her, because that was one of the things that got me thinking about this. Remember, it was all those great things that those students do, but nobody knows about it. And also, you got really good connection with the ABA. The ABA Journal put on several of these and got quite a few projects from there. They could probably get you contacts with the winners of those hackathons, and maybe we could get those people to post their projects on Justice Hub too.
That's a great idea. We should do that. I know that Dan Lina ran a couple of these that we could reach out to Dan.
And then the court did one too. The court's doing some hackathons. They did one, I think, in Utah. Don't know who ran that, but I can find out.
The National Center for State Courts, if we have if the right contact there wants to put their projects online, that'd be a great one to get. That was a joint effort, I know, between the state court in Utah and the National Center for State Courts. So yeah, getting several more projects up so that we can begin curating them is going to be a great next step for us. And then making sure that when we get to the January TIG meeting, and even before that, I think I'm probably going to go to the NLADA meeting Just getting people there to get excited about what is on Justice Hub and how we can collaborate there.
Yeah, Tom Clark may have been the one at the National Center. I'll ask him. If he's not, he can tell me who it was.
They also oftentimes at NLADA they have the NLADA technology section will meet, one afternoon at the end of the day or something. You should make sure and try and find that if it's on the agenda to go by and because that may have occasionally they get some public defenders in that meeting.
And probably the other thing that could be really helpful is to take the question that we have on this call right now and get the few, there's a handful of leaders of tech in the tech community, the people who've been creating the tech, and get them involved to brainstorm the same conversation and have them begin to take some leadership in, at least in this early stage of getting the tool used. If we can do that, if we can identify the 2, 3, 4, 5 leaders in the tech community with the TIG grants and so forth, and then maybe just get on some kind of a joint collaboration call with them, and then have them identify technologies that they think could go on the Justice Hub. We'll do the work, of following up and making sure that it's utilized. But initially, we want to get as many of the great projects up there so that we can curate them and make it clear how this, not only what's going on in the community, but what needs to be done next, so that people will see this as an implementation community, not a real doing community, not just a database of what's been going on.